Have you ever asked yourself the question, am I sure I married the right person? When crises happen in your marriage and it's happening again and again and again, and you think you are doing your best, but it's not working, then you ask yourself, have I not married the wrong person? Now, if you have ever asked yourself such a question, I want you to know that you are not the only one that has ever done that. So many people have asked themselves, am I sure if I married the right person? And you know why? Because there is no perfect marriage. As long as there are no perfect human beings, there can never be a perfect marriage. So every marriage that you see out there is facing one challenge or the other. If you think that you have married a woman who is very, very wise, intellectually sound, eventually you discover that she's very proud. There's always a lapse somewhere. If you think you have married a man who is humble, who is godly, along the line you discover that he struggles financially, he's in serious financial mess. And in that marriage, there's no money, definitely there will be crisis. Then you say, no, I'm going to marry a man who is rich. When you marry that man who is rich, number one is probably diabolical. He does a lot of charm. You see charm in the wardrobe. You see charms under the bed, under the pillow, or he's a womanizer, or he's a bully. Then you say, okay, I found a man who is not too rich, but he's godly, he's caring, he respects me a lot. But eventually you find out that that man has health crisis. You could also have a man who does not have all of these things. But considering the family he came from, his mother, trouble, his sisters, trouble, and you are not having peace in that marriage. On the other hand, a man could marry a woman who is hardworking, who is respectful, but she's very dirty. She doesn't know how to dress. Every time the house is in a mess. Or you have a woman who has a good job, very beautiful, but she doesn't have time for you as a man. She's not romantic. She doesn't even want you to touch her in bed and all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the reality of marriage. As long as there is no perfect human being, there can never be a perfect marriage. So the crises that you are facing in that your marriage are not peculiar to you. If anybody comes and tells you that, well, I've been married for 10 years, I've never argued with my wife, you have never had challenges, well, I'm not saying you should argue with that person, but that is his own opinion. But I tell you that there's no marriage that does not have its own challenges. Sometimes we have this mentality that there's a marriage somewhere that looks like paradise. There's no paradise anywhere. What people do is to manage their marriages. And if you think that yours is tough, when you hear what other people are going through in their own marriages, you'll be shocked. All right? The truth is that 50% of this job should have been done before you got married. You should have prayed. You should have done your investigations. Although you cannot know everything about your partner. But if God is guiding you, He will guide you aright. Although that God guides you does not mean that you marry a perfect person. Because while you are complaining about the errors of your partner, you also have your own errors because you are not perfect. So it is not the best thing to begin to think that you want to walk out of that marriage. Number one, God says He hates divorce. So it is not the will of God for you to divorce because the two of you has become one. And number two, the next person you are going to is probably going to be worse than this person. So that's why eventually many women end up as single mothers. But that is not the will of God. That was why Mary was not pregnant until she was betrothed to Joseph. Because the plan of God is that every child should grow under a father and a mother. So it's not the will of God for your children to grow under you without your partner. So it is very, very important for you to be patient. Try your best. Maybe if there is a case of violence in that marriage, you can separate for a moment. But divorce is never the best option. So what do you need to do to manage that crisis? Take note. Even if you report to a third party, eventually it still boils down to both of you in that marriage. Number one, pray. Many people don't pray for their marriages. Everything that happens, they blame it on their partners. But you don't pray. It's like you have planted a flower that you don't water. It may die. Pray for your marriage on a daily basis. Then number two, try to understand your partner. Sometimes, or most times, we think that our partner is just being callous, he's just being inhumane. That's why he's not listening to us. He's just being selfish. But what you need is understanding sometimes. Understand why the person does what the person does. Number three, sit the person down and communicate. Not once, not twice. Every time you have the opportunity, talk about issues. And the last one, please and please, humble yourself. Forgive. Even when you are not the one that is guilty. Because your marriage is bigger than your ego. Don't let your ego destroy your marriage. Remember what the Bible says. A wise woman builds a house, but a foolish one brings it down. And for the man, it says a man who is unable to manage his home is not worthy or to hold a public office. Fight for your marriage because there is no perfect marriage. May God bless your marriage. I'll see you in my next video. God bless you.